What's up, fam? This is a recording of the Minister's RedPilL Diaries. You know who I am? I'm the naturalist minister, the Nkatla of Bafut, Kantwi Folklore Ambe, the initiator of the Ministry of Spiritology, and the director of the Association for Cultural Awareness. And, you know, we're going to be talking about how to stop adultery in this recording of the RedPilL Diaries, you know, because we have a serious situation on this planet right now. And, you know, I do RedPilL essentially from an African perspective. So we have a dynamic in which, you know, I'm just going to be honest. We don't adapt everything that is presented into RedPilL like how they present it in the West. You see, RedPilL in the West can't be like how RedPilL in Africa is going to be, because like culturally over here, the idea of marriage, it's not even socially ingrained in the men and the women. It's traditionally ingrained. I mean, it's like spiritually ingrained. You're not going to stand in the African society and tell a man that he should MGTOW and just totally abandon women, black pill. That's not gonna work in our society. And if you try that, truthfully, you're gonna be shunned and stigmatized and given all types of strange labels. And even me, honestly, I don't think that that is an appropriate level of self-ostracization as a solution to dealing with a feminine situation, you see, because like even in the African context, you see, I was trying to politic with some brothers and telling them about over here, we have polygamy. You know, polygyny is normal. When a man has certain conflicts in his first marriage, he's not encouraged to divorce like they do in the West. Here, even the family would get a man another wife. Or there are a lot of cultures where the man is entitled to just get him a second wife, like in Cameroon, where I'm from, and I'm, you know, Bafut, that's Gemba Tikari, Northwest region, you know, where they're trying to set up Southern Cameroons. Let me just throw that inside there. But essentially, it's like, there in our clan, our king, who's called the Fon, he naturally, because of that disposition, is a polygynous man. He takes over the throne, inherits the wives of his forefather, and also adds his own wives. That's just a normal custom and tradition. There's nothing strange in that. So, I mean, it's just a tradition and culture that we are very, like I say, in the African context, it's normal for a man to be able to adapt that type of a perspective, that he can reason out how he can justify being in a relationship with multiple women and not look at it as being this strange social taboo that the West tries to throw on it, even though in the African context, because of the Christian religion, we do know that, you know, we've had a lot of that type of incursive belief on our tradition, and we're working on that gradually. But in this social context of, you know, what we're talking about as marriage and the whole idea of adultery even, you know, because in the polygynous domain of evolution of what was African marriage that at last became monogamy in a typical context because of Christian influence. But though the average man in Africa, truthfully, he knows he is polygamous. He knows that naturally the universe is about plurality and the variety of exchange and experience. And I'm going to be honest, in that mentality, it also has always justified the realization that even the women too, you know, the women too, they also do have natural desires. And if they are going to need to express them in polygynous marriages and situations, I'll be honest, I was talking to a sister, right, who's in a polygynous marriage, and she told me straight up, she was like, nah, even though it's not spoken about, and like I said, I'm gonna keep a red pill with y'all, totally blatant. She said, even though it's not spoken about openly, the polygamous man, like the king, he does know quite often at times not all of the children that he has in his fundum and kingdom are his. Just like you all be seeing in the movies when they be showing how the monarchies be getting down. And then they'll be like, oh, this one child was actually an illegitimate son because the mother had him like this, or the king had this child illegitimate with a woman like this. But because of the bloodline and the setup in the union, that child still is entitled to that royal blood and a possibility of being an heir to the throne. Like you saw a situation with why they're saying that even whatever happened to Diana. Let me not get into that conspiracy and all of that. But it's like, I'm trying to make y'all understand the context and bring you into the reasoning of why the idea of adultery, even in the context of a marriage now, becomes such a travesty, actually. Because when we see that it's based on all of this valuing of loyalty and inheritance and property, and then people want to just seem like it's limited to just the emotional aspect, that no, I'm just with this person and we're just having a sexual interaction. So if I start to cheat, you know, that, I mean, truthfully, even the idea of cheating in the first place is stupid. What are you really cheating them out? What are you winning? That you get into a relationship with someone where you consensually agree to be together and you have basic terms that you're going to be together and focus on each other's social development, maybe economic development, you see emotional concerns, and then along the way you decide that you want to abandon the terms now and start interacting with another person. Let's start looking at relationships in that context of being contractual and, you know, rational. The whole sapiosexual ideology instinct is something that I actually conform to and I appreciate, because that's the best way to look at relationships. People look at relationships too much from that romantic perspective. And that's why in the Ministry of Spiritology, we have a degree course called Romanticism, in which we get into all of this, truthfully. The ideology of romanticism as a disease. But we need to start looking at a solution because of romanticism and the whole pageantization of, you know, human emotion, feminine emotion particularly, and now in a society where we do have to recognize that there's feminine toxicity. We do have an issue where, honestly, the rate of adultery has become alarming and it needs to be checked. It should be a social crime. It should be a civil crime, actually. It should be a criminal offense, honestly. Legally sanctionable. They need to go revise the penal code, because when they were making these laws, I always get into it. People get upset, but I mean, that word Judeo-Christian, like I say, that we have certain terms that we use as keywords in the ministry that if you interact with me often, truthfully, I'll be seeing a lot of our participants, they pick up those keywords because it reshapes your subconscious way of looking at reality. And you have to start to realize that the way that we were educated to look at a lot of things is wrong. The way that we were educated to look at marriage is wrong, because we were educated to look at marriage purely from a Judeo-Christian perspective, when a lot of us actually at last, as we are coming now into the dawning of the new age on the earth, because it's inevitable. I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all said Jesus Christ 2,000 years, he ain't come. It's a mythology. Everyone's waking up to it. I always got to throw that in there. If you don't like to hear it, you gonna hear it. Truthfully. But the Judeo-Christian concept of marriage is perverse, and it creates a logic inside a man that he's supposed to be subjecting and keeping a woman under his control. And I'll be honest, as entertaining as it seems at first to a young man growing in that culture to be like, oh, you're gonna get married and have a wife, you at last spoil a relationship with someone's daughter who's a woman, and you stop seeing her in that context of being someone's daughter who's a woman who became your wife, and you want that individual now to fit into that label. And truthfully, my brothers, it's gonna be like, some of y'all gonna be angry and be like, nah, he's talking beta, he's talking blue pill, he's talking sip. Nah, I'm putting this in a purely rational context for an African red pill. That's why I had to really set this out, because I was speaking to a brother, he said, nah, we have to be able to start culturally distinguishing the realities of what we're trying to do from a lot of what they create and set up in the West, because if not, we always do mess up ourselves. We destroy ourselves, seriously. And we already have issues in our society where we have reasoned that the nuclear center of society, being the family, is being attacked. So we're not now gonna bring now a masculine dominant side where men too start saying they're going their own way. And then they're also bringing an agenda to also say that the women too should start sexually weaponizing. You see it. Y'all thought y'all was gonna throw sand in the engine. Nah, truthfully, like I say, Spiritology, we're above the concepts. You see it. Spiritology is the spiritual logic. So we are masters of consciousness. You see, masters of reality. There's very little you would be able to throw at a minister of spiritology who was thoroughly raised by me that they couldn't deconstruct and recreate a reality with, especially in the context of creating a naturalist reality covenant society. So, honestly, if they would criminalize it, then you would see that people would stop and it would limit. Because right now, especially, y'all in the West, you know, and that's how I'm going to start going out on this video because I'm almost at my destination, you see it. Y'all in the West got real problem with adultery, especially y'all fellas, you see it. Because your legal system over there, for some strange reason, I'm still trying to figure out why it's so maternally polarized. I don't know if it has to do something with the queen or if it has to do something with Vatica being a goddess. But, you know, the way I look at it, you all have an issue where women intentionally now, as this Age of Kali agenda has been extended, and it's manifest truthfully, Age of Kali is real, y'all. Y'all need to Google that, get into that knowledge, know what the Age of Kali is. It'll enlighten you a lot. I did a post on that some years back that was very definitive, and in Facebook, right? And for some strange reason, a Facebook bot sent me a friend request, and it had all these Hindu yoga imagery in the photos and stuff. And it was a bot, honestly, because it didn't have any friends on it and everything. But it just makes you understand how, like I say, some of these concepts that we're dealing with, they're very, very, very active in the whole matrix concept of integration with human consciousness. But truthfully, folk, I want y'all to pay attention to this last bit of knowledge that I'm about to give you. Because when you now start to look at it in proper context, you will now understand exactly why marriages are getting into the fault that they are. Now I'm gonna start rounding it up. You see it. The trouble now is that women have been encouraged to cheat. That's what's gone on with the media. You see it. It wasn't originally like that. Adultery is something that does go on in marriages, but it wasn't something that was being socially acceptable. You see it. Now women are being encouraged to actually cheat. And the truth of the matter is that women do cheat more than men now in the context of society. And I want to explain why. You all women are going to be like, no, it's men. And they're always talking about men. No, let's keep all of the toxic femininity aside, and the idea of toxic masculinity being more dominant. And look at this from a simple, rational point of view. A man approaches a woman, right? And he asks a woman to go out with him or to have her phone number. Finally, I mean, that's the way society is actually polarized. Finally, it's a man who, after sharing a drink with a woman and buying, you know, the lunch or the dinner or whatever, he's the one who now makes the sexual advance to try to propose the idea of some sexual interaction with her as an adult. Now, the woman has to consent or she has to deny. And this idea of mature adults consenting has to come up again. Like I said, it's another key word that we have in the ministry, because these words will save you. They link you to straight concepts. Was it mature adults consenting? Yes or no? And you have situations where now the woman, of course, if the woman accepts now, then the issue of the adultery or the cheating, whatever is going on, it gets taken place. You see it. Now, women, I want you all to really understand this. That's you all's fault. You do not have to accept every advance a man gives you. You should have known by now at this age that when a man asks for your phone number, he generally is just looking for some type of a non-committed relationship. Even if it is en route to possibly understanding who you are to have a committed relationship, just know that at that point, no one's just going to meet you and in the next 1 week take you to the altar or create such a committed relationship with you that you become a life partner. Let's just look at it and be honest with ourselves. You see it. And if you're honest with that, then well, if you're going to consent or you're going to accept, you're accepting the consequences of if the person decides that they want to not be serious, or if you decide to not be serious, which is what you women, and like I say, the world's even coming to that already. So like I say, cartes sur table, we're putting all the cards on the table now. Because since it's the women now who have to accept the advance, and a lot of women are accepting advances, the women need to blame each other for the adultery and the cheating. Which is why for the women now to preserve their social union of marriage, which they seem to have cherished so much, which they claimed patrilinealism gave them as a bondage. But so many of them are actually realizing actually it was valuable and it existed because naturally, if a man and woman are going to procreate and we're going to continue to exist on this planet as human beings, then that social institution has to exist, and there would need to be a time where at least it's preferable. We know that the world's changed and men abdicate and women don't at times even want the men around, but in the ideal situation, if it's a man with a woman and a man is looking after the woman for the 9 months of her pregnancy and she's giving birth and they grow together in that type of a union as life partners to oversee the growth of the child, it's so ideal. It's so ideal. It's if it can't be attained, it's not a must. We're going to be honest and admit that. But it doesn't mean that we should now create a society that prioritizes dismantling that structure, because it is a legitimate option and social union for individuals who want to maturely consent to be monogamous and be heterosexual, or if you want to look at it just in that raw context, if you want to be polygamous or polygynous or polyandrous or polyamorous or the LGBTQ community, like we said, mature adults consenting finally. But when you get into a contract with an individual that you have made certain stipulates and recognized and accepted and violated, then now there should be clear sanctions for that violation. It shouldn't be that now you can just, I just got into the social union, got married, committed adultery, and so what? There's nothing you can do. Because now what we're seeing happening is that they're in court. When they're in court, now imagine a woman intentionally commits adultery, and this is particularly going on in the West. A woman intentionally commits adultery. You know, my husband's working a lot. They bring that excuse. If I could just give a scenario, you're not giving me enough attention. Meanwhile, it's because he has to take care of the bills in the house while she looks after the kids. And she starts getting bad input from friends. And you all know how it goes. You see it. She cheats. He finds out. She feels emotionally traumatized, though he's willing to try and work it out because, in the end, guys, it's just some sex sometimes, truthfully. If she's going to be a tramp, okay. Truthfully, she was just, it's going to sound rude when I say it, but like I say, if I'm just being RedPilL with it, you would just have to accept that fact. Truthfully. It's yours when she's giving you a slice. When she goes out, you don't need to put your mind on it, and you play her. Truthfully, you handle your business in the house. When you go out, if you got to do your business, you do your business, man. But you represent sun, moon, and stars, like I said it, man. But let me not deviate into all that. Like I said, we're not trying to condone it and justify it. That's a higher level of perspective and mentality if you want to look at that Jada and Will, mentality. But it does exist, and that's the point that I'm trying to recognize. It's not for everybody. That's the point, though, because you got to have a lot of heart. But really, because women will intentionally go out and set up that situation, earn a man, learn a man, burn a man, and then intentionally want to divorce a dude and take his money after being the one to have instigated the adultery in the marriage. That's not correct. You see it. That's why adultery needs to be criminally or civilly sanctioned in such a way that it deters what's going on in society right now. Because truthfully, I'm telling you guys, you saw what Kim Kardashian just did. Kanye's, that's body number 4 in husbandry. If you want to talk of hypergamy. Fellas, they're teaching these women some dangerous stuff out here. You all aren't paying attention to it. I'm seeing it. That's why I'm coming out just being like, okay. And if this gets over to the African society, fellas, it's going to mess y'all up. It's already leaking in. Before we saw stingy men associations coming up, Nigeria, Ghana. Men realizing that, girlfriends used to date a woman and now a girl's like, no, if you can't pay me up front, if you don't give me this or that, then we're not going to, there's no sexual interaction in the relationship. I say it's strange, it's funny. And a lot of people be like, that's a minister talking about, liberal sex and everything. But like I said, I'm giving you the reality of what's going on out there as it is. If y'all don't like to hear it like that, then keep on going and pretend it. It's funny. Pastor's daughter coming home pregnant too in a Christian church. So let me speak on my RedPilL and give the knowledge to those who really want to just take the solution, man. Because finally, in the African context, y'all getting messed up in the West is coming over here, and we paid bride price. So fellas, y'all paying bride price, and they bringing this weaponized sexuality over here. Will you be getting divorced? In African context, you know that we don't do that. It's not encouraged in our culture. It's even stupid when it does happen. Because what you do is, with the deficient economic situation that capitalism has created, you're going to misconstrue at times someone's daughter to a very, very bleak situation for no reason. That's why we say the polygyny is there. You keep her, you just add another wife, of course. You see it. If you continue to grow, if you have the mentality and education for that, of course, Ministry of Spiritology, you can lead to us. We do have social counselization and education in polygyny courses virtually that are available for individuals who are interested in that. So, I mean, I say we're multifaceted until you become a participant, before you see that we are reconstructing and revising the African spiritual naturalist reality here on the context. So that's what I want to drop into that video. You know, really look at the situation truthfully. You have to criminalize it. You have to criminalize it. And I know it's not going to be criminalized, but it's an idea. And I'm giving this out to you all to let you see the gravity and weight of essentially why the action of adultery is not cool. Shit happens. And that's why we're saying that we would bring back polygyny, or look at polyamory, or even the polyandry situations for men who would be willing to raise a woman up as a queen and goddess in that situation. Because if you look even at the ancient cultural text, truthfully, these are realities that are there. A lot of people speak in the context of the Judeo-Christian morality, and that's why they claim to be awakened, they claim to be woke, but they keep falling short because they want to distinguish certain things as paganic or satanic or immoral or taboo within the context of Judeo-Christian religious morality, and not in the context of universal cultural. That's natural law. Ministry of Spiritology, we are a cultural awareness ministry. So like I say, don't throw your darts at us, because we'll just catch them, put them in the bag. That's what I'm going to drop out on this video. I hope you all really got the message truthfully. I know they're probably not going to criminalize adultery. They won't. Y'all going to shout. But think of it. Reflect on this truthfully. Because it's coming to African society, the dowry is going to be wasted. All this marriage values decreasing. Women, you all don't like it. And it's your sister who's out there being encouraged to do it. And you're like, oh, she's slaying. And you're laughing. And you're like, but she's the one who's going out that night to go and sleep with some woman's husband. And you don't want that to happen to you, but you won't conscientize her against it. And then you'll be in at Jesus Christ on Sunday, clapping your hands, praying against such people. Want a husband for yourself. Do you all ever think in that hypocrisy? So that's where the minister's going to end, truthfully. I'm going to drop out right there, truthfully. We've gone a little bit above the normal 15-minute extent that we wanted to, but to really get this message out clearly, I had to run with it because we haven't been on a RedPilL podium in a minute, and I really had to make this message be very clear, truthfully. It is criminal. Adultery is criminal. Keep Bible aside. It's wrong. You're violating a personal contract that you created with an individual, and if you can't keep an oath that you have by your own word, then truthfully, that speaks a lot about your character, not even the person that you're cheating on. So when a relationship gets to that point that you want to look for someone else, end the relationship. You don't have to cheat. Just end the relationship, find someone else. You try to talk to the person about what's bugging you that you think needs to be alleviated and corrected in the relationship, and if it can't be, you just find you someone else. You end the relationship. Or you negotiate the possibility of getting into a polyandrous or polygynous or polyamorous situation, like I say, but that's evolved, but it's mature adults consenting. So my people, let me handle the business I came out here to get into, and we will definitely keep the content up on the channel. I've been your naturalist minister, Nkala Bafoot, signing out. Peace, profile, peace. That's where we going now.